to lesson 70, completing the square. Now, this was a method that was often used on Regents exams for Algebra 1, but maybe moved away on future Regents exams, so we still want to share it, but know that it may not be as emphasized as it was in the past. So here's our criteria for success. It is a challenging, rich problem, so I am going to walk through it as clearly as I can. There are quite a few steps, and the goal is to really complete a square using our understanding of square numbers. So we're going to use inverse operations to isolate terms of a variable, and we're going to apply the half square share step and use factoring to transform the equation into a vertex form. And then we're going to use our algebra to solve for all values of x. So let's look at what that looks like in practice. And here on the side, I have the steps for completing the square, and I'm going to try and walk through them and check them off as we go. So here's our first one. We're going to isolate the terms that have an x on the left side of the equation, which we already do. And we're going to take half of the b term. So first things first, I'm going to move this one over. So now I have x squared minus 6x is equal to negative 1. And I'm going to think about half of this. Half of 6 would be 3. So watch for how I'm going to use that. X squared minus 6x. So I'm going to take that half and I'm going to square it. So half of, in this case, negative 3 would just be positive 9. And I'm going to do the same thing to the other side. I'm going to add a positive 9. So again, all I did was I took half of this number, which was negative 3, and I squared it to get positive 9. So all I did. And if I put it here, I had to put it here as well. Alright, now we're going to factor the left side of this equation. So you're going to think how we normally factor it. We will do the factors of 9 that add up to negative 6, and we know what that is. That would be negative 3. And we know that that's why we were conscious to get half of that b term. So we would have this type of answer. On the other side, we just have 8. So now I'm going to just simplify this part on the left a little bit more. So I have x minus 3 squared is equal to 8. Okay? We're going to find the square root of both sides. And so I have x minus 3 is equal to the square root of 8. I do want to turn this into, well, you know how I would do this. I would change it to find a perfect square, and so I would have 2 square root 2. That's what I want in this case, 2 square root 2. Okay, and now I'm just going to do some solving. So x minus 3 is equal to 2 square root 2. And this would either be a plus or a minus. So let's say this is the positive case, and I would add 3 to both sides. So x would equal to 3 plus 2 square root 2. And let's look at the alternate case. X minus 3 is equal to negative 2 square root 2. Now we'll still add 3 and get x is equal to 3 minus 2 square root 2. Okay, so these are 2 solutions for x. So the big goal in completing the square is we're removing this term, and then we're finding out this number using half of the b term. Like, we're creating a square number so that we can have the same term twice and we can rewrite it as a square number. That's going to be the goal. So hit pause and jot this down in your notes, and we're going to do one more together. Okay, I'm going to start the one on the left. First, I'm going to add 15 to both sides. So I have x squared plus 14x is equal to 15. Now I'm thinking about half of 14, which would be 7, and I'm going to square it to get 49. So x squared plus 14x plus 49 is equal to 15, and I'm going to add 49 here as well. All right, now the reason I'm doing that is because we're thinking of the factors of 49 that add up to 14, and we already know it's going to be 7 and 7. So x plus 7 times x plus 7. And on this end, I'm getting 64. All right, now let's rewrite this. So I have x plus 7 squared is equal to 64. So we can find the square root of both. And now I have x plus 7 is equal to, and then here are the two different pathways, positive 8, or x plus 7 is equal to negative 8. And I can solve for both now. So x is equal to 1 minus 7 minus 7. X is equal to minus 15. Here are two values for x. Okay, I think the heart of this problem is always, once you move this one, is just figuring out what this value is going to be. And sometimes an easy mistake would be to go and say, well, what's half of 14, and just put a 7 here and forgetting to square it. So if you ended up with just 7 and got stuck, I get it. So you remember, you have to complete the square, and so the reminder in your brain is, I have to turn a number into the square number, and that will help me figure out the rest. All right, you're going to try this next one on your own, so hit pause and try this one, work through it. If you need to go at it with your notes again or rewind the video, do that. And I will see you with the reveal in just a second. Okay, let's go through the solutions for x in this one. X is equal to 1 plus or minus the square root of 2. So let's work this one out. If you're unsure, you have x squared minus 2x minus 1 is equal to 0. So we're going to move this one over. And we have x squared minus 2x is equal to 1. Now we're going to find half of negative 2, which is negative 1, and square that, and that would be positive 1. So x squared minus 2x plus 1 is equal to 1, and we're going to add 1 on this side as well. The reason we wanted that is so we can create x minus 1 times x minus 1, which is now equal to 2, or x minus 1 squared, which is equal to 2. Now we can find the square root of both, and we get x minus 1 is equal to square root 2. And again, we have a positive and a negative version of square root 2. So I'm going to have both of them here. X minus 1 is equal to negative square root 2. So you can see both of them. And in both cases, we're going to add 1. And we get x is equal to 1 plus the square root of 2. And in the other case, you have x is equal to 1 minus the square root of 2. And that's why I can express it as x is equal to 1 plus or minus square root 2. All right, so again, trick for this one was to figure out what half of this number was and then to square it. So half of negative 2 is negative 1. Squaring that is a positive 1, and that's what allows us to do this work. I know that some students may have looked at it and said, but it looks so similar to what we had here. It's not that, you're not going to get this with a negative 1 because it doesn't work with the factoring. That's it for today's lesson. Get some practice in so you can master the skill. I know you can. Completing a square can be challenging, but it can be a really fun challenge if you lean into it. And I will see you in the next lesson, Math Marbles. Be well.